Currently, in our situation that we're in, there's a lot of fear that's happening. Do you fear loss of income or loss of hours? Maybe you even fear if you're going to have a job when isolation is over. I know there's a lot of fear and a lot of conversations on social media about whether or not there's going to be a position for them when they get back, or whether or not some of your team members are going to come back. There are tons of fears that are happening and that are going through our mind consistently and constantly. Now, as we think about going back to work, whenever that may be, and what going back to normal is what we're looking for. And the reality is that there's not going to be the typical normal. There's going to be a new normal. And this new normal is something that we don't know. We don't have the answers for. There is so much uncertainty around what this new normal is going to be looking like. We're just consistently seeking for answers on it. And we hate being in a feeling of uncertainty. This doomsday feeling, this scary feeling of what to expect. We don't have the answers. Am I going to have the right PPE when we go back? Is the infection still going to be possible? Is the pandemic still going to be happening? These things are not going to go away. But what's going to happen is we want to make sure that you recognize those feelings of fear and when you are in a mindset of fear. Because when we're in a mindset of fear is when we can change our behaviors and the way that we interact and react to certain situations. So in this video, we're going to go over the most common types of fear mindsets that you run into and ensure that you can recognize them so that you can change the outcome. At the Dental MVP, we use science to teach people skills to you, the dental professionals. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, the Dental MVP, and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out. Now, I've got a little story for you. This morning was a morning that I got to get ready for this video. I have to be completely honest that during this whole time of isolation, makeup and clothing other than pajamas has not really happened. It was kind of exciting. The most exciting part of this is that I got to do it uninterrupted by myself. Okay, and to some of you that might not seem like a big deal, but to you other mothers out there, you are totally like, yes, good for you. That's amazing. Because having an uninterrupted shower and makeup time and to get ready is like unheard of in my house. So it was pretty incredible. And as I'm like basking in it, putting on my makeup and just like, this is incredible. Like, it's just so quiet. I went into that like, it's just so quiet. Oh my God, why is it so quiet? I hope the kids are okay. I wonder if one of them's choking or they might have gone outside. I wonder if they went outside and didn't tell me they could get hit by a car. The house could be on fire and maybe my smoke alarms. I have 2 that are unplugged and maybe they're not going off. And I like ran downstairs and I screamed their name and they're like, what? And this probably sounds really freaking crazy, right? It's like, maybe this is coronavirus getting to me in isolation. But you have to admit that this probably happens to you, that sometimes when you're just in a moment of complete and utter joy, you think of the absolute worst thing that could happen.
Now, what Christina's talking about is a completely normal fear response. Well, I don't know if it's completely normal, but it's a normal fear response. We'll say that, especially from a parent's perspective. Now, we don't want this video to give you a fear of fear. That's not the intention. The fear response is purposeful. So it is meant to protect us from negative events. But it also comes up and has a big impact on our bodily reactions as well as our emotional reactions. The fear response starts in the amygdala. And what it does is it triggers that fight or flight response, really. So it gets your heart going, your blood pressure up, and your ability to have constructive thinking kind of shuts off. It's just survival mode of how do you make sure that you stay safe and stay out of harm's way. So it makes sense that that response is there. For the most part, we all experience this response multiple times throughout the day. So if we're going to get into the car, we think about safety things like putting your seatbelt on, because what if you were to get into a car accident? It's those little things. Or maybe you get in the car because there's wide spectrum to how people react to these. And maybe you're like, well, you only live once. We'll drive fast and we don't have to put our seatbelt on. Now, for Christina's sake, of course, this is the moment where she jumps out of the shower and goes and checks on the kids just to make sure that they're safe. Now, these are going to be interactions that we have in the practice. So this is going to happen on a different scale with the fears that we were talking about at the beginning of these videos. So the fear of losing team members or losing patients or losing income, these all have that same response for us on a neurological level and an emotional level in general. Now, what we want to try to do is we want to try to be able to recognize when we're in these fear mindsets. So when we're having those moments where our creative thinking is shutting down. That's one of the most consistent findings with neuroscience, is that when you're in that fear mindset, your ability to have logical thinking and creative thinking is hindered. So that tends to shut off. That's our ability to pause and say, what should we do as we go back into the practice? So we have the fear of not having appropriate PPE. Instead of just shutting down and saying, we can't do anything at all, it's pausing and saying, okay, what does CDC say about this? What does OSHA say about this? What does the science behind coronavirus and the transmission say about this? If we're in a fear mindset, but we're not able to recognize the fear mindset, we're not able to get to that next stage of thinking to say, what is the creative aspects that we can explore to better understand what's going on and to make decisions that will lead us to the safest possible outcome as we move forward with this new normal. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the most common fear mindsets that we're tending to get caught up in at this time.
This type of fear that's very common is fear of change and fear of the unknown. This is one that all of us are quite familiar with right now. And why do we fear this? Because it's that fear of uncertainty. We hate that feeling of uncertainty. It's one of the most uncomfortable feelings that you can be in. And it's just like that black abyss of like not knowing what's coming and what's next. So fear of change and fear of the unknown.
One is going to be the fear of judgment or rejection from others. We have spent a lot of time really acclimating to this social isolation. So how is it that we make sure that we keep our 6 feet distance and we minimize exposures and we do the best we can to comply with all of the rules that are happening? And you can even see on social media that if someone posts a picture where they look like they're out and about, or they happen to have to bring their kid to the grocery store to be able to get groceries, there's that kind of immediate response of, how could you do this? How could you be out and about with your kids? Or how could you be risking this type of exposure? And we all have kind of started to be conditioned to that fear of judgment. So in the group forums, if you say that you're a practice that's going back into practice and you're going to be opening again, looking for support and insight, you might find that people are going, well, why are you going back to work right now? And it's really that fear of having colleagues and coworkers and team members judging our actions, even though in each state, kind of where we're at in this pandemic varies and is different. But there is going to be that fear initially of putting out ideas or making suggestions and having that fear that someone in the practice, someone in the team, someone in another practice, or just someone that's within the same field is going to have some sort of rejection or judgment based on your actions.
Number 3 is fear of failure. Now, when you have fear of failure, usually you just don't even try, right? You're just so afraid to fail that you don't push yourself beyond those limits. And this typically comes from some sort of standards that either you have set for yourself, saying, I need to achieve to here, and if I can't do here, I'm not even going to try, or it's from someone else. Now, you might also see fear of failure with you possibly opening too soon, pushing yourself beyond that limit, right? You might have had in your head, okay, I can be closed for 30 days comfortably and pay my team members for this amount of time. Otherwise, I don't think I can pay them any longer. And you don't want to be seen as a failure by not being able to continue your business or continue to pay those team members and have to furlough those like others have. To you, that might be a standard that you have set. So fear of failure can come in a lot of different ways, especially during this time of crisis. So take a step back and look at some of the choices that you or your colleagues are making during this time and say, could this be coming from a fear of failure mindset?
Next, we have fear of scarcity. So we saw this towards the beginning of the pandemic as people were going out and going to the grocery stores and getting things. And the less there was of like toilet paper specifically, the more people felt the need to go ahead and buy this.
I just ran out of paper towels. I went to the grocery store and they don't have any.
I'll save you. I'll save you. um, so we have this scarcity mindset too that happens in the practice. The fear that we're going to lose our patients. Maybe that another practice will start to open up sooner and our patients will go there. The fear that we will lose our team members or our colleagues or we'll lose hours. So we really want to make sure that we're able to get everything that we can. And that's what drives our action, is just that fear of a limited resource. So making sure that when we're able to pause and reflect on the decisions that we're making, that we're not making choices out of fear of not having a limited resource. We really are all in this together. We're all facing the same things. So taking those moments to pause and reflect if scarcity is a factor that's impacting your judgment and your decisions.
Know that you're in a fear mindset when you start to choose more things that feel safe. And we all know why we choose things that feel safe, because safe is comfortable, right? It's like, if I know I'm going to make a decision and it's safe, well, then that feels comfortable, because we all know that we don't like that uncertainty. If we're making a lot of choices, these safe choices, then we might want to step back and think, am I actually in a fear mindset right now? Am I making all of these safe choices? Am I not pushing myself beyond what I need to do? And that's a way to notice if you might be in more of that fear mindset. So if you are saying, okay, I'm just going to purchase a bunch of N95 masks from this company that's not FDA approved because it says N95, and that feels safe to me because that name feels safer to me than not working or than using a level 3 mask. There's some decisions that we're making because we have this safe feeling with maybe a certain item or an individual or a routine, a habit. So notice the actions that you are taking and individuals are taking and think, are they choosing a lot of what feels safe to them? And could that be coming from a fear mindset?
Another red flag that you might be acting out of a fear mindset is when you have the gut feeling that you're just not making the right choice. Now, sometimes people, their gut feelings stay pretty true to them, but it can also be the outcome of a lot of the other fears combined. So the fear of judgment or scrutiny from others, the fear of limited resources. So really trying to understand what that gut feeling truly is, because it's typically an outcome from some other story that you're telling yourself, some other explanation that you're giving yourself of the situation.
Another way that you know that you are acting out of fear is when you just start giving up so easily because it's just too much for you to handle. Now, this might look like something as in coming in for an emergency patient. The doctor calls you in, they say, can you come in? No one else will come in. And you're like, of course. And you just go in and then you take it unpaid because you didn't ask them if they were going to pay you for that. And you don't want to have the conversation. And so you just don't even have the conversation because we're just too fearful of losing our jobs. And there's just so much unknown. And we don't have the conversations that we normally would. And we don't stop and think about how we would normally handle a situation. Because right now, it's just too much for us to handle anything more stressful. And that's a stressful conversation for us to confront someone. This might even be happening at home with your spouses and with your children, where you're just giving up and giving in because it's just too much right now. So if you find yourself constantly just giving up, giving in because it's too much, then you know that you're starting to react out of a fear mindset. And it's time to take a look at that and step back and acknowledge how you're reacting.
Lastly, a sign that you may be making fear-based decisions is you spiral into negative self-talk afterwards. You didn't make the right choice, you are failing, and that's one of the hardest things about fear-based decision making, and one of the really nasty components to it is that we tend to just naturally justify the decisions that we've made. Like, we had to make that choice, we didn't have enough resources, we didn't have the information that we needed. We might even look to blame ourselves or to blame others, and it just becomes very negative.
Those really are the signs and symptoms that you are going to start reacting out of if you are reacting out of a fear-based decision making. Now, which type of fear mindset and fear decision making do you find yourself following along more often right now, or others? I'm sure that you could probably pinpoint one or the other that you are more frequently running into. And while this is not going to go away, it's really great for us to acknowledge these fear mindsets and to be able to take a step back and notice when we are in them. It is not about ignoring them. It is not about changing them. In fact, when we are in those times of fear, we want to be able to step back and sit in them and fully understand why we have the fears that we do. And when we can do that, we can start to have more of that creative thinking. We can gain that power back that our body just naturally takes away from us. And we can make sure that we are making the right decisions during that time. To subscribe to the Dental MVP, like this video and leave us a comment. We will be giving you more videos on how to react out of this fear-based mindset and into a more productive, creative one. Thank you for watching.